Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new installment of Nintendo News Report for Thursday, January 29th, 2015. During the show, we discuss recent Nintendo news as well as this week's new releases and more. I am your host, Alexander Clark. Joining me this week, as always, site director Neal.
Did you just turn into a robot, or was that just me?
That was
Did I just turn on to a
not
robot?
just you. Yeah, you were totally a robot.
It was kind of terrifying.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Neal Ronahan.
Did you hear my introduction in general, and do I still currently sound like a robot?
No, you don't sound like you're going to kill me now, so that's good.
Okay, good. But we also have a very special guest that you just heard, filling in for Scott this week. Recently appointed news editor, Alex Osborne.
Hello, hello.
Okay, let's have a show, boys. And the interesting thing about this week is that even though we're calling Alex a special guest, he was the first person who did one of these YouTube live podcast things with Neal and I. The first one we did when we started this initiative was us three.
Yeah.
It's coming first circle.
Yeah.
There you go. This week's top story is that Nintendo just put out their newest earnings report yesterday. It seemed like they were going to do an investors meeting, but Iwata got sick again.
Yeah, he got the flu. I don't know if they've said if they're going to reschedule that meeting, because as far as for people who don't know how these things usually work, Nintendo will put out their sales results on like one day, and then the next day or that night they will have an investors presentation, in which then Iwata has a prepared PowerPoint slide and speeches and stuff, or I guess commentary, that then he presents to shareholders, and then the slides go up on Nintendo's website, and then we look at them for any kind of nugget of information. That's how we found out about quality of life for the first time. That's how we found out of what would eventually become Amiibo for the first time. And then there will also be a Q&A that happens then. So that has not happened at all yet. And I don't know if it's going to be rescheduled or if it is just canceled for this quarter. Which would be unfortunate if it were canceled because, I mean, they got some splaining to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Iwata getting sick, assuming that is the truth, what a goofy lie that would be if they canceled the investors meeting by saying Iwata had the flu. But it's the way this thing usually works. There's so much.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the way this thing works, assuming he's sick, and I believe he's sick, they usually
casting doubt.
there's usually
someone for a second that he's actually sick.
I like assuming that it was like he didn't want to go to school that day, so he called in sick.
He calls it Miyamoto.
But anyways, the way these things usually go down, as you were saying, I would be surprised if they didn't reschedule it, because they probably would have had a lot of interesting things they wanted to share with their investors, like updates on the quality of life, their new third-prong approach to Nintendo stuff. And then they would also reveal stuff like the Nintendo DS Virtual Console that never came to be.
Yeah.
Right. I think, if anything, the investors are chomping at the bit to, barrage Iwata with some questions. So
yeah, I mean, you're always good for at least one dude being like, "Hey, games on mobile? Come on."
Yeah. That's always a topic.
It's almost always without fail too. Every single time, there's always
the same guy.
Do you really think so?
I actually think it. I think I've heard from some of the guys who have been there. I think they've made a comment that it's usually the same dude asking that question.
Okay. Anyways, important news from that, talking about sales first. Wii U sales are up and 3DS sales are way down. For the Wii U, 3 million sales in 2014 compared to 2.8 million in 2013. And then for the 3DS in 2014, sold 7.67 million units, down from 12.89 million units in 2013. And we should note that the 3DS sold roughly the same number of units in 2014 as it did in the last quarter of 2014. So Nintendo's holiday season in 2013 was as good for the 3DS as 2014 was combined.
And keep in mind that that's with one full quarter of the new 3DS in Japan, and I guess about a month and a half of it in Australia. Granted, those are the smaller markets, but still, Like, that's bad. That's real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because I believe that their sales projections were still 12 million for the entire year, which I believe they readjusted. I think so. But let's put it this way: they're not going to hit their projections for the 3DS sales this year unless the new 3DS, for some reason, sells like 2 million units when it comes out in North America and Europe, which probably won't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, just comparing even software lineups, between 2013 and 2014, I think, was a huge thing. And obviously, we're reaching a somewhat of a saturation point. And then I just think the whole launch with new 3DS and all this has just been a little odd. You know what I mean? So I just feel like there's a lot of different factors at play. But.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like the way that they kind of scattered out the new 3DS launch might have been to try to get that last boost at the end of the quarter. They were hoping that they could probably milk more out of the old 3DS in North America and Europe, which is why they held off. I mean, that's probably a stock reason, and also, hey, maybe we can get one last holiday season out of this model, which didn't really seem to work.
Yeah. Just talking about the software lineups for the last 2 years, it's worth considering, like you were saying, Alex, just how crazily better 2013's lineup was from 2014. Because 2013 had Animal Crossing New Leaf, which Neal and I were just discussing how crazy that was. Fire Emblem. It had the first Pokemon game on 3DS, which must have sold a bunch. And then also, even though Smash Bros. Came out this year, it was first announced, or actually, no, that's not true. It was first announced in like the 2011-2012 range. But this year was the first year it really existed in 2013. So I think in 2013 was when a lot of people bought their 3DSs in anticipation of Smash Bros.
And I think Luigi's Mansion was also 2013, right? Or was that?
Yep.
Was it, yeah.
And A Link Between Worlds, right?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, 2013 really. I mean, I think we're gonna in a couple years, and 2013 will definitely be the best year that the 3DS ever had.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, in 2014 it had a Pokemon game, but it was the Ruby and Sapphire remake, which probably not a lot of people were hot on to begin with. And sure, there was Tamagotchi Life, and it did do very impressive. It's a million seller on 3DS, as we'll get to in a minute, but it's no Animal Crossing New Leaf.
I mean, really,
yeah.
Really, 2014's lineup seemed to mimic a lot of 2013, but just wasn't as strong outside of Smash Bros. 3DS, which, that is going to be a big seller. It already is a big seller, but like Bravely Default doesn't stack up to Fire Emblem as well. Tomodachi Life was in the same Animal Crossing spot, both releasing in June, but it's like Tomodachi Life did very, very well in the West, but it still didn't stack up to how well Animal Crossing did. It was a lot of like pale imitations of what they did in 2013.
Kind of like the B tier to each A tier from last year.
Yeah.
Or the year previous.
To the point where, they had a B tier Pokemon game. They had a remake as opposed to the brand new Pokemon game on the 3DS.
Right.
They even had they had 2 Layton games. It's crazy. 2 Layton games in 1 year.
Yeah. Speaking of games that did very well on the 3DS, they also put out, a list of games that sold over 1 million copies on both 3DS and Wii U. Wii U had Mario Kart 8, Smash Wii U, 3D World, and Nintendo Land, counting bundled software. So all that makes sense. Stuff that sold 1 million.
Right, no surprises there.
Right, but on the 3DS, Pokemon Omega Ruby, Smash, and Tamagotchi Life, and Kirby were the games that sold 1 million units in 2014. But Mario Kart 7, X and Y, New Super Mario Bros. 2, and Animal Crossing New Leaf also sold over 1 million units, which means half of the games listed here came out well before 2014.
Yeah, although I think 3DS software sales were still down from what they expected. But still, I mean, some of those games did very well. I mean, Tomodachi Life is a huge success when you look at it. Considering how weird that game is, it did super, super well. And even Kirby Triple Deluxe showing up there. I mean, I guess we'll see like how Rainbow Curse does, but I think Triple Deluxe did very, very well for a Kirby game.
So sales came in a little under. Do you think I mean, I would think Nintendo would probably be surprised with how well Tomodachi Life did and Kirby. Do you think the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the remakes, didn't push even as big a number, or Smash underperformed handheld wise for them, or
I wouldn't be.
um,
I mean, Smash Brothers still. I mean, I have the chart up now. Smash Brothers
mhm.
still did 6 million,
Yeah.
which I mean that's more than most 3DS games. Like it's only. I mean, and that's only with 2-3 months on the market. Smash is currently sitting at total life to date over 6 million units, whereas stuff like Animal Crossing New Leaf, New Super Mario Brothers 2 are hovering around 9 million, and they've
Yeah.
got 2+ years on Smash Brothers, or I guess
Mhm.
maybe like a year to 2 years. And even I mean Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, yes, it didn't do as well as X and Y did, but it's likely going to be at 10 million units worldwide in the next few months. Like I don't think that goes back to like what was it? It was the Tomb Raider. The recent remake like didn't sell 5 million units, so it was a failure. Like if they're disappointed with 10 million sales of a Pokemon remake,
It's
then
true.
they need to readjust how they're
Yeah.
looking at this. Considering that Pokemon X and Y is only up to, I mean, well, I guess only is up to 13 million worldwide right now, which isn't that far off from the 10 million that Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire will
Hmm.
likely be at soon.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just interested. Like, so we've seen how it's done in 2014. We've seen how everything's done in 2013. I'm trying to think about 2015 and whether Nintendo has what it takes to put some games out on that level. And unless they put out another Pokemon game this year,
They
I
will.
can't see. I say 70% chance, if not 80%. Not a total guarantee. There's a chance this could be finally the off year, but I agree
When was
with
the
you,
last
Jordan.
time they had an off year with Pokemon?
It was
2008?
around 2000. So here's the way this whole thing worked. In 2014, it was Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. 2013, X and Y. 2012 was
Black 2, White 2.
Black 2, White 2. 2011 was Black and White.
And
And
granted, 2011, it was early 2011, so there was like a year and
right,
a half gap there. And
right.
I think Black and White were actually
Came out in
2010 in
2010. It was a
Japan. Yeah.
gap year in Japan. 2011 was a gap year in Japan, I think. I think those games came out in like
Yeah.
September, October 2010. So that was a gap year for Japan. And then 2010 was Soul Silver, Heart Gold, and then 2009 in America was the
Platinum?
Platinum. There you go.
Yeah,
Platinum.
2007 was Diamond Pearl, so
There,
2008
there
was
was a
off year
gap
too.
year for
Okay.
Japan, but overall it's been since 2009. And it seems like Nintendo and Game Freak internally have this set to be a more or less annual series now because they see how wildly important it is. But it could be an off year. So unless there's a Pokemon game that comes out this year, I can't see Nintendo doing well in 2015 at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
I
has
mean,
to be.
really,
I mean, it's got to be Z. I would think, and it would take advantage of basically, they can reuse the assets from X and Y and maybe add a few extra little things in it.
New
And
3DS features.
yeah, new
yeah, and that
3DS
way
features. Yeah.
it'll run without a hitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think 3DS it's near the end of its rope. I mean,
Yeah.
I think new 3DS in North America and Europe. I mean, just looking at the fervor around it, and granted, it's that small dedicated fan base. I don't think new 3DS is going to light the world on fire. But I don't think it's going to do bad either. And I think
Right.
that there are enough quality games coming out. But I think unfortunately a lot of those games are, for lack of a better term, niche. Like Majora's Mask, yes, it's still a Zelda game. It's probably still going to do really well, but it's still Majora's Mask, which was kind of like the black sheep of the Zelda franchise. Not saying it's bad, but just that
Sure.
it's not Ocarina of Time. It's not even Wind Waker. Like Majora's Mask is a weird game. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which Alex, you've been playing that, and I have a code and should start playing it soon. Um, that's a very niche game. Codename Steam, which I'm playing that demo. That game's fucking incredible, and I can't wait. It's still like this weird. It's like it's a strategy game, but then it has like artwork inspired by American comic books, and has some kind of weird mechanics that everywhere I'm reading, people have a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, it doesn't really
Um,
scream mass appeal.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with a lot of the stuff that they're putting on 3DS is that, I'm stoked for all of these games pretty much across the board. But as far as, like, are these going to sell even the 6 million that Smash Brothers did, or the 3 million that Tomodachi Life has done so far? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, there are games that still need to be announced for this year. We
Yeah.
know Fire Emblem could. Well, we'll be talking about the release dates in just a second. But we know Fire Emblem could be coming out this year. If we get really lucky, maybe we'll get the new Rhythm Heaven this year, though. And I kind of doubt it. I think that'll be early next year. We still haven't seen most of the games for later 2015.
Oh yeah, that's true, and that goes the same for Wii U. I mean, we basically know Zelda and Star Fox are coming later in the year. Other than that, and I guess Mario Maker looks like it slipped there too.
Is Woolly World first half?
It's going to be summer, I think.
Woolly World is still listed as first half. If I were a betting man, I would say late May, either late May at the very no, because it's Splatoon. I would say June or August is going to be Woolly World.
Territory.
Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of release dates, some stuff was discussed. Fire Emblem 3DS's release window for North America and Europe is TBD.
And we've talked about that before. I still think that. I think Fire Emblem, If, as it's called in Japan, it's coming out this summer in Japan, and I think that game will be coming to North America and Europe probably February 2016.
Yep.
Nintendo follows structure usually, and I think they found very, very good success with RPGs in February. With Fire Emblem Awakening, with Bravely Default, both of those games sold really well. So why would you fuck with that? Obviously, they put Fantasy Life in October, in that fall release slate, and from what I heard, Fantasy Life. Well, I don't know if Fantasy Life bombed, but Fantasy Life wasn't surprisingly good. Whereas both Bravely Default and Fire Emblem Awakening sold really well. So I think even if the new Fire Emblem game is ready to go and localized for October, I think if you're Nintendo, unless you have absolutely nothing for 3DS for fall 2015, you save that new Fire Emblem game for February, and it'll do way better than it would if you released it in fall.
Yep. Other games that Nintendo talked about, Mario Maker's coming out in the vague 2015, probably summer, maybe later. We'll see.
Yeah, it was Mario Maker was previously listed as the first half of 2015, pretty consistently by Nintendo for the past couple months. So, I hate to call it a delay, because when you're being really vague about release terms, like when it's like, oh, first half of 2015, which would probably be at the earliest the back half of the first half of 2015, having it just go to a wide 2015 isn't like worrying. It's basically like, okay, this might have originally come out in June. Now it might be like September. Like, right. I don't think it's
still somewhere in the middle-ish area.
Yeah. Like
the thing that stood out to me though was it said tentative title. So is that Mario Maker's not the final name? I had always assumed that it was.
Hyrule Warriors was also set as a tentative title for a long time, and actually, I think there might be at least some kind of insight into the way that Nintendo does a lot of those tentative titles. Back at E3 this past year with Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. If you'll remember from the Nintendo Digital event at E3 2014, it was referred to as Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. However, on the show floor, it was just like Kirby, in parentheses, temp title.
Mm-hmm.
And from talking to someone at Nintendo, I think someone at the Treehouse, they made the comment about how this name literally got approved right before we got here. So I think when they have stuff like that temporary title or tentative title, it might just be that the name hasn't been 100% finalized. That doesn't mean that the name's going to change. It just means that it's not set in stone. Yeah, and Hyrule Warriors was one where that existed as a temporary title for a pretty long time. Before then, it was the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's Mario Maker. Just a fun one I wanted to bring up. Brain Age Concentration is still listed as TBD in Europe.
Did we ever find out exactly what happened with that game? Because
nope.
It just got oddly delayed for a very long time, and I really enjoyed that game.
Which I would also like to discuss in conjunction with the fact that Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem is still listed as to be determined release date-wise, which I will note That doesn't mean anything. That just means that they haven't officially canceled it yet.
It's only a flesh wound.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
Yep. It's Neal. You had to drop some knowledge on us.
Well, I mean, okay, so yes, I think that when Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem was announced in January 2013, 2 years ago, or was that February? I forget exactly when that Nintendo Direct was, but it was essentially 2 years ago that this game was first mentioned. It was this, Atlas and Nintendo joining together to bring their two fun Japanese RPG franchises together and make this crossover Wii U title. I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that when that game was announced, they had nothing to show because they didn't have anything to show. So it was very, very likely the ink probably hadn't even dried on them being like, we're going to make this. Shortly after that, by September 2013, that was when Sega officially bought Atlas. I'm hearing weird echoing.
I am too. I was about to bring it up. I can hear me now.
Really? I didn't change anything. I'm not hearing any echoing either. This is odd.
Hello?
Okay, now it seems like it's fine.
Okay, we should be good.
Okay, sorry. As I was saying, so in 2013, when Shin Megami Cross Fire Emblem was announced, that was when Atlas and their parent company, Index Corporation, were going into bankruptcy or whatnot and being sold. They were, I guess, whatever the technical term is, but I'm just going to be blunt about it. When Atlas became part of Sega, that was in fall of 2013 was when that officially happened. And whatever bureaucratic nonsense had to happen to make that all go kosher, it involved the creation of something called the Sega Dream Corporation, which, I don't know, that's weird. Google it if you really want to know more. It took until April 2014 for Atlas to be, I think, settled in at Sega. So there's probably nearly a year where Shin Megami Cross Fire Emblem might have been caught up in some kind of development hell because one of the companies that was a part of it was being bought by another company. And I would assume, since that game still exists, that probably Sega, Atlas, and Nintendo all worked it out and everything's hunky-dory, assumedly, and that the game is probably being worked on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've said, Alex and I have talked about this before. As I've said, if we don't hear anything at all about this game this year, I join the it's never coming out bandwagon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Discussing that.
Well, do we know if this is going to be more of a traditional strategy game in the vein of Fire Emblem, or
we have no idea. No clue.
We've seen pictures of characters that were also official part of games that have released before.
Yeah.
So depending on sort of which way it leans, it could be a much larger project or a much more I don't know, less development intensive. So I don't know.
What if they just made it Shin Megami Cross Fire Emblem Warriors?
Speaking of video games that did actually come out, we have some new releases. Metroid Prime Trilogy came out. Anyone buy that? Anyone play it?
I bought it. I have not played it yet, but I will probably play it after we talk. Go get that game.
All right, this echo thing. This is really bothering me right now.
I'm sorry, guys. I have no idea. I'm not getting any
the
echo.
way you're saying that sounds super sarcastic, Alex.
No, I'm genuinely concerned. You guys won't have me back on
now. Even more sarcastic. Here's what's bothering me so much. We're doing this echo thing that's going. And by the way, as soon as Alex talks, the echo disappears for a minute. But I can't see the levels being reflected in the echo to see if anyone's doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna keep doing the show, and you know what? If it ends up being a little shitty, sorry, Scott. Anyways,
Scott's
releases. You know what?
But yeah, go buy Metroid Prime Trilogy right now.
Yep.
We'll wait.
That's 8 gigabytes. That's a lot of storage for that game. But
yeah, three awesome games.
Yeah, I'm still sad though that we're not getting a proper HD treatment for it though.
I kind of agree. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
At least controller support.
Yeah,
I
mean,
don't
that's the
want to
one
dig out
thing.
the
Like,
Wii modes.
I do think that it controls really well. Like even the ones that retroactively got the Wii controls, I think it works really well. But there's that part of me that just wants to sit down with the gamepad in my lap and just play that game dual sticks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, Neal, tell me about Gunman Clive 2, which is now available on the eShop for $3.
It's really, really good. It's so the first Gunman Clive, if you played it or not. My cat's throwing up right now. I apologize if anyone heard that. But Gunman Clive is a fantastic game. And Gunman Clive 2 is basically like the first game, but even crazier and better. So I guess the hook with the first one is that it had this cool like monochromatic art style, and in the new one, there's color. Like, but it's like vivid in a way. Like there's stages that are dark, there's stages that have like all different shades, and it looks really really cool. And it also helps that the levels get like progressively more insane. Gunman Clive or one of the other playable characters you can also play as Mrs. Johnson, who controls kind of like Peach in Super Mario Bros. 2. She also has a gun like Clive, and she can hover. Or Chieftain Bob, who's an Indian who does not have a projectile and can only attack with a spear, which really changes up the way you play the game. But some of the stuff that happens in the levels in the game as you go across the entire world, you fight ninjas. You do battle with a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's a boss fight. You ride a panda while you're being chased by a saw, and if you get caught, then the panda gruesomely gets cut in half. You also ride a pterodactyl. I think that's all I'm going to go with. But basically, Gunman Clive 2 is $3. It'll last you about an hour, hour and a half, even more if you like playing as the different characters. It's fantastic. Go buy it.
Does Duck Mode return?
Maybe if you beat the game.
Okay. All right. Codename Steam, the free eShop demo came out, and then what a goofy thing that turned out to be. How there was all this hubbub about the demo, which was only given to like GameStop employees and a few select people, and then it seemed like the next day they just decided to release it to everyone, which I bet it was a last-minute decision.
I don't think it was a last-minute decision. I think that Nintendo's probably pissed that the GameStop employees couldn't shut their damn mouths. I ended up actually getting one of those GameStop codes. So I've been playing the demo for the past day or two. It's awesome. I'm so excited for this game now. I actually know what it is.
Is it like a vertical slice of the? Is it like start from the beginning, or do you have context for it, or?
As far as I can tell, it basically just gives you like the entire first mission, which is 3 maps, and then it's 1 mission, and then you get 1 more map in addition to that. So you get 4 maps in total. And you do like the first map where it's just 1 player, and then you get a second character, and then for the final map, you get access to 4, which that's the maximum amount of characters that you can control in one game. And then you can go back and play any of the other maps that you previously played with 4 people.
Okay.
So it's a pretty meaty demo. Like just doing a straight run through of it, I think it took me like an hour.
Okay. It's so it is fun. You are excited for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I was always interested in it, but from watching any video of it, I kind of knew that I had to play it, and I played it, and now it might be my most anticipated 3DS game.
Wow.
Okay.
So this is good. I mean, it's one of those games that benefits from the demo rather than giving a bad taste. You know what I mean? Because I feel like even a game, especially as complicated as that, might not benefit from something like that if it wasn't meaty enough to give the player, a good grasp of what's going on. So.
And I think it's a really well-made demo because it slowly introduces you to different concepts of the game, and then like near the end of it, it's kind of just like, now here's a lot, have fun and play with it, and lets you replay all the stuff that you've already played with those new mechanics in place.
Okie dokie. This week there's also the final week of the throwback sale, led by Metroid Prime Trilogy for $10. Metroid's $3.49, down from $5 on the NES. This is ridiculous, Secco. Can you hear it as bad as I can?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out what we can do right now. Is there any way someone watching this can tell us if it is really that bad.
Tweet at Nintendo_NWR.
Neal will be
Sounds
watching.
really bad.
Okay, but anyways, I'm just gonna keep going as if that's not the case. Metroid on the NES is $3.49, down from $5. Super Mario Kart is $5.99, down from $7.99. Mario Kart 8 is $44.99, down from $60. That's pretty good. Mario Golf World Tour is $22.49, down from $29.99, and Mario Golf is $2.49 on the Game Boy Color, down from $4.99 on 3DS. That is all some good sale. Mario Kart maybe could stand to be a few dollars less. I think 40 would have been the sweet spot for that, but I don't know. Anyways, moving on to news. There was a new Super Smash Bros. Update recently came out that has several bug fixes and also introduces new 8-player stage options. As far as normal stages go, Mario Circuit, Luigi's Mansion, Pyrosphere, Norfair, Lilac Cruise, Pokemon Stadium 2, Town and City, Smashville, and Wii Fit Studio will all now support 8 players. Meanwhile, Omega stages, including Mario Galaxy, Mario Circuit, Great Cave Offensive, Lilac Cruise, Pokemon Stadium 2, and Town and City now support 8 players as well. That's all pretty cool. Have any of you guys tried it yet?
No, I've not. I did download to my Wii U, and I'm excited for this because that was my one knock against 8-player Smash, is that I think it more than halved the amount of stages that you could use, and now they're adding more back in. And the fact that they did update that kind of also gives hope that maybe they'll add more 8-player versions of stages in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, you would think. Oh, go ahead.
Any updates you guys want? I mean, we know that the online stuff is coming. They're going to start making it available to share stages. I kind of want more options to actually make stages more than just this shaped rock formation. It's because the stage design in itself in this game isn't necessarily great.
I mean, I'm not good at creating things in games. I'd rather see it. I mean, that's why I'm excited for the sharing to possibly happen, because then I'll be able to see what other people are doing. I've always been, when it comes to games like WarioWare DIY or your Little Big Planets and stuff like that, I've always been a consumer, not a creator.
Right.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that one of these days you're going to get into it, and I think for many people, Mario Maker is going to be that game. Okay, our next story, that Smash Bros. One was just a small one worth noting, as it is so new. But our next story, shortly after the stream of our last episode, new Pokken Fighters details were revealed. Along with Machamp and Lucario, who were previously announced, Suicune, Gardevoir, and an angry Heihachi-looking Pikachu are now playable in Pokken Fighters, which is all really cool, and I love how much they stylize Pikachu, because he looks ridiculous.
It's Heihachi Pikachu.
Is it Heihachi and not Heihachi?
I have no idea.
Okay, sure. But
I played
that's
Tekken
cool.
3 a lot in 1998. That's all I got with my Tekken knowledge.
Sure.
I used to play as the shitty little dinosaur. Gone. He farted. I was 10. I thought that was hysterical.
Excellent. Lapras, Emolga, Fennekin, Snivy are all support characters. They can support you during your fights. And the game appears to be a 3D fighter, almost like a Power Stone or DBZ type game, with an occasional 2D perspective. It seems like they got something interesting going on, though I've only seen parts of the video, so I don't know necessarily in full detail how that is. But it seems really cool, and my guess is this is going to be a really accessible game for people who really like Pokemon.
Did you see the arcade cabinet, the controller?
I did not.
It looked
weird.
Looked
super simple, just a couple buttons, and yeah, it is. It's a very weird looking thing for sure.
And they did make the comment that that control scheme was like a prototype, right?
Okay.
That comment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense, because the game still seems like it's about a year off, or at least a half a year off for Japan.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that Suicune's a character. I think it's cool that Gardevoir's a character. The fact that Mega Evolutions are coming into this game and showed off a Mega Lucario makes me hope that every single fighter in this game is expected to be getting a Mega Evolution. Because Suicune getting a Mega Evolution would be really cool, especially if Entei and Raikou would get one as well. The Gardevoir and Lucario already have them. I think a 6-armed Machamp would be really cool as Mega Machamp. And then Pikachu getting a Mega Evolution is something that will probably happen eventually.
I think that, like, holy crap, my cat just jumped on the fucking table. What are you doing, cat?
Don't throw up on camera.
Yeah. Get out of here, Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Do we know how the Mega Evolutions are like triggered? Is it like was there a meter?
It's probably a bar. It's probably a meter or a bar. If it wasn't represented on the screen at the time, it probably will be the UI. But yeah, it's probably going to be a bar like every other fighter.
Yeah.
There's no way there's not Mega Evolutions for other Pokemon, or there's not some replacement. Because it would be crazy to me if Lucario got a Mega Evolution, but Pikachu didn't. Or didn't have some kind of replacement.
I mean, I
Maybe
think
it could be
Pikachu should just, like, get more mad.
Right, but there's also like other variants of Pikachu too. Like there's the it could evolve into Raichu, it could be Surfing Pikachu, it could be Balloon Pikachu, it could be the trading card game's Birthday Pikachu, which was a ridiculous card because the Birthday Pikachu was at the top where its name was, it was this person's Pikachu. And it just had an underscored line, so you could write your name on the card, and it would say Neal's Pikachu or Alex's Pikachu. So maybe Birthday Pikachu.
I like Puka from the anime, the surfing Pikachu.
Was that its name? Was it really Puka?
I didn't know it had a name.
Digging back into that memory bank from years and years ago, Puka.
Yeah, so there's stuff they could do. Machamp really does need a Mega Evolution, though. But that is something only I am insanely interested in among the three of us here. Lastly, Xenoblade Chronicles X got a bunch of details revealed everywhere in a large, 10-page Famitsu article. And I'm just going to go down this list. Online play is passive and inspired by the Souls series, which is fantastic, and I want every game to do that. That is normally single player. Players can leave behind messages for other players to see while they play. Xenoblade Chronicles X is more of an open-world RPG instead of a linear RPG like Xenoblade Chronicles was. You have more freedom to take on quests. Battles are faster paced, no healers. Healing is done with a new mechanic called Soul Voice, which is real cool. I didn't know Soul Voice was a wholly new mechanic. Anyways, gamepad is used to view the map, can be used to warp to previously visited areas. Map is 5 times larger than Xenoblade Chronicles.
That's really big.
Xenoblade Chronicles by itself was almost too big by itself.
But, I mean, that's why you got, mechs and you can fast travel and stuff. I think there's going to be good ways to move around this world.
That mech stuff is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And according to the executive director, Tetsuya Takahashi, it took him about 300 hours to play through all the content, which is a lot of content, though I wouldn't be surprised if a dedicated Xenoblade Chronicles fan wouldn't be able to get at least 200 hours out of that if they really wanted to. So I bet it's going to be as far as game-wise is concerned, maybe 30 to 50% more content, which is still a huge amount on top of Xenoblade, but I don't think it's going to be, a normal playthrough won't be 300 hours. I doubt it will even be 100.
I think that would be suicide if they're the only way to beat the game is to put 300 hours into it.
Yeah.
No, if it's going
to your job, say goodbye to your kids. Let's just go. It's Xenoblade Chronicles X all day, every day.
If they're doing this open world thing, that's I'm not saying inspired by Skyrim, but in the same way that Skyrim or Elder Scrolls games are have one shorter main quest and then hundreds of hours of stuff to do around it, I wouldn't be surprised if this game was a 30 to 40 hour RPG, even technically shorter than Xenoblade Chronicles. But there's hundreds of hours of stuff to do around it if you are so inclined.
That makes sense.
I would not be surprised if that's the case, especially with the world being bigger too. They can spread out side quests throughout the whole thing, and even just it's not you're not playing as Shulk, right? I mean, you're making a
no, you're making your own character. They haven't even revealed.
So it's even pulling that from Western RPGs. So I don't know. The more I hear about it, the more I don't know. I'm becoming less interested because I do prefer something that's more narrative driven and linear when I'm playing a story-centric thing. This is almost feeling like an MMO, but disconnected from the world, obviously, with more Dark Souls-like integration. So I don't know.
It's the fact that this game is so much more aggressive than Xenoblade Chronicles has me excited. Like I constantly see that image of the mech just flying off into the distance in the first trailer, and I am impossibly hyped for this game. But I agree with you that the strongest stuff in the original Xenoblade Chronicles was the narrative, direct stuff, and in fact, I didn't actually do that many of the side quests.
Right.
I mean, the one thing that all this information kind of does for me, and I haven't felt this way since last E3 when they showed off a lot of the gameplay in the opening of the game. This game's real and it's finished. We're just waiting on a localization. Like that's insane to me. And I mean, it's not insane that it's done because it's been being worked on for I guess like 3-4 years. But it just like it was this game that always seemed so mysterious and off in the distance, and it's actually like it'll be out in Japan in what 2.5 months, 3 months. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy to me that we're actually there.
That was it's like not to tie. This will be my last point before I close off the show. But that was a lot of how I felt with Grand Theft Auto 5 when it came out, because it was originally announced a lot of the same way as Xenoblade Chronicles X, a small trailer, and I think late 2011, late maybe 2010 even, and it just had this drip of information, and then it came out, and by the time an actual release date or release period was revealed, it was so crazy that you almost didn't believe Rockstar because of how ambitious they were selling the game, and that's what it feels like here too.
Yeah, I see that.
Yep. All right, that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I am sorry if there were any technical difficulties on your end, but thank you to the people who are sticking around right now and will stick around when they watch this episode in the future. I would like to thank our special guest for this week, Alex Osborne. Thank you, Alex.
It's been my pleasure.
We will surely call you next time we need another replacement, be it for Neal or the other Alex on this show. You can find him at Alex C. Osborne, AlexCosborn. You can find Neal at NRON, the number 10, Enron10. And you can find me at CULAFIA. If there's anything you like about the show, any way you want the show to be improved, be sure to tell me. Be sure to tell us in the comments. We want to make this show the best show it can be. Now, see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.